Welcome to the Love Life Podcast, hosted by Jack and Sheila Harper. This podcast is about love and passion for life. Save One was founded by Jack and Sheila in the year 2000 to help men, women, and families recover after abortion. The Harpers have a real passion to see lives be healthy and flourish so that those lives have a lasting impact on the earth. Join us for the next few minutes as we talk about the subjects that impact our lives and how we can together find and keep better spiritual, emotional, and mental health by loving life. Here's Jack and Sheila.
Welcome and hello, Love Life listeners. What a great day to love life. Every month, you guys are sharing the podcast, and we have new subscribers. We have new people saying how much they love what is going on here. Seriously, it means the world to us.
Yes.
When you get something out of the content of the amazing people that we get to introduce you to. And today will be no exception.
That's right.
Love today's guest. He leads one of the most well-known pregnancy resource coverings in the world, Heartbeat International. He has an amazing story that you will not soon forget. Our friend Jor-El Godsey is fighting for lives. I love that. Teaching people to fight for life and partnering with pregnancy resource centers to love the baby, to love the mother, and to love the father. So thank you for being with us today.
Yes, thank you.
Oh, very excited to be with you guys. We intersect at different parts of the world. It seems we're never in your place or in my place, but we're always connecting somewhere around the globe. So
Exactly.
great to be with you guys.
Exactly, at a conference or something. But I remember one of the first things that drew me to you, not just our like-mindedness when it comes to life, but the fact that you love baseball. And you have made it your quest, just as Jack and I have, to go to every major league ballpark in the MLB. But you have accomplished that, haven't you? You've been
Did.
to every one, right?
Well, I did. Well, up to this season, right? The season's bringing some new adventures as far as the actual parks are concerned. But yes, it took me 7 years. I was able to get all 30 parks, and then over COVID, they opened the new one in the Texas Rangers opened a new stadium, so I had to wait
Yes.
a year when they started allowing fans back, and then was able to get down there. Now it looks like we're going to have to get to wherever the Oakland A's are going to land,
Oh,
and
that's right.
also the Tampa Bay Rays now are in a bit of change because of the damage to their structure, which was frankly one of the
Wow.
worst in my mind of all the 30. So yeah, I it's been a great adventure. I'm glad to share it with others along the way as well.
Well, I love it. And I know 7 years. This has been, 20 for us, and we're still not done. I think we're on number 21. I think we're around that, but we're going to Cooperstown this summer. And so
Oh, awesome.
I'm really excited about that. You've probably been there, haven't you?
I have not. My
You
daughter
haven't?
went. She had the nerve to go without me, but yeah, that is definitely on my list of things to do.
Yes, I love it. Well, Jor-El is much more than just baseball. So let me tell you a little bit about our friend. Jor-El has been serving pregnancy resource centers since 1991, 34 years. Thank you for doing that. You started as a volunteer, right? I love
did.
that. I
Yeah.
mean, sometimes
Well,
people look at,
there's a story before the 91, if I could tell you that story.
sure,
That's yeah. So I and you guys would know this well from the ministry that you do. I have an abortion in my past. It happened with a young lady when I was in school. And so I lived that out. I didn't really know any better. I wasn't raised with a Christian heritage. We were kind of default Christians in a sense as a family. It
mm-hmm.
wasn't a part of who we were. And then, not long after that experience of facilitating an abortion for my girlfriend, that relationship did not last. As you know, most of them don't
Most do
survive.
not.
The vast majority don't survive that kind of experience. Ours did not. But then I stepped into a different relationship. I stepped into a relationship with the King of Kings, with with my Messiah, my Savior, and began to walk with Jesus. That took me to a little tiny church, a little storefront church, where I walked in with that as my past. And, not long after being there, maybe months, maybe it was a year, but they brought in a pastor from Pennsylvania. So I grew up in South Florida. So I'm in this little storefront church in South Florida with this pastor from Pennsylvania who I didn't know, but came with an agenda. He
Mm.
wanted to talk about this very issue, the issue of abortion in church. And I can't
Wow.
tell you I had ever heard it, and certainly not as direct and as blunt and as powerful as he presented it. And
Yeah.
I don't know what else he said. This is back when we had services, the messages lasted an hour, right? They don't do that these days, but
No.
it was an hour long. But somewhere in the middle of that, he made this statement that I have never forgotten and will testify to its power. He basically said, abortion is not a social issue. And I was like, wait, what? It certainly is. And I was kind of arguing with him in my mind. You
Mhm.
didn't talk back to the pastor, at least in that church. And then he said, abortion is not a political issue. And I went, what? It is most certainly a political issue. But he said all of that to make this point. He said, abortion is a gospel issue.
That's
And let me
good.
tell you, I was penetrated totally. I mean, literally, I can almost every time I tell the story, I can feel how I felt in that moment. I just
Wow.
felt this wave go right through me, and I was totally convicted on two levels. The first level, and the most important one, I was convicted of my own sin, my own culpability in that issue, my
Wow.
own kind of cavalier attitude towards what I was hearing is very much on the heart of God, right?
Hmm.
And that set a path that you guys are very familiar with with me. It was the idea that we need healing from that. We need to walk that
Yes.
path. And I know you guys have been phenomenal champions for just that. And so that set me on that path. But the second thing that occurred in that instant was I was convicted that we needed to do something. We
Mm.
needed to do something about this in our land. And how dare our nation be positioned in a place of honoring and validating something in law that really was very much a gospel
Horrific.
issue, right? That
Yes.
as this pastor
Yeah.
powerfully presented to me. And
I
so
love it.
again, I didn't know he came with an agenda, but he had signs in his trunk. And he said, "Okay, we preached the word. Now we're going to do the word." And then our little church got up and went and protested an abortion clinic. Now
Wow.
it was Sunday and they were closed, but it was the whole idea of activating
Yes.
this conviction. And for me, that flipped a switch in my life that I had no idea where it would take me. But it was actually going and doing that particular protest. I was looking for the next thing to do. And the next thing that popped up on my radar was something called Operation Rescue. I think you
Hmm.
guys are familiar with that
Yes.
history. And so I
Yes.
found myself peacefully protesting in front of an abortion clinic in a way that was designed like the civil rights movement, where it was a put yourself in the path, kind of block the entrance kind of thing, peacefully and prayerfully.
Hmm.
And that led to being arrested. And then there was the second time I got arrested. That's a longer story, but we ended up
Wow.
in jail over the weekend. And it was while in jail in the weekend that I was talking to a pastor from another church, because there was a bunch of us church people in this jail
That were in
cell
jail. That's so
for
great.
extended period of time. And it was this other pastor that said, "Hey, you guys are going to want to know about this thing that's opening up near you." And it was a neighboring community, and it's called a crisis pregnancy center. So the pastor, knowing my conviction that had become clear, turned to me and said, "You need to go check that out, and you need to go see if there's anything we can do." So I got that assignment. I walked into a little pregnancy center, 800 square feet. I learned a ton at that moment, and
Wow.
that was my introduction. That gets me to the 1991 moment where I'm like, I got involved, and they said I said, "Well, what do you need?" "Well, we need electricians to help us get the wiring done so we can move on," because they hadn't opened yet. And so our little church was a very much a kind of blue collar church. So I was able to go back and
Hmm.
find a couple of electricians. Came in 2 weeks we had that wired. And so they called me. They made the next phone call to me, which was, "Hey, would you want to be on our board?" And I had no idea what that meant, but that was my adventure. And
That's
so
so
that was
great.
1991. and I got involved in a big way, and then
Yeah.
eventually became a full-time member of that particular team, and then eventually another center in Colorado, and then find myself here in Ohio at Heartbeat International.
That is so incredible.
So if we
Who
need a
would
board
have
member, one of us
we
just needs to go to jail.
Yes, yes, we'll be able to find some. My respect for, and I know this probably sounds crazy, but it's like my respect level goes up to people that I know that have been arrested for this cause because you're willing to lay everything on the line. And I absolutely love that. And who would have ever dreamed as a volunteer, that it would lead to your entire career and having such an impact on the planet, not just on Ohio where you are, but on the planet. So don't ever despise the what's that scripture?
The
It.
small beginnings.
The small beginnings, yes.
Yeah,
Don't ever
no,
despise that because you never know what your obedience is going to bring into your life. Like you just went through the next open door
that
and there you
that's
are.
exactly right. I just took the next step, and then the Lord led me to leave work and begin to do this full time. I did it. I can't tell you I did it out of great excitement and exuberance. I did it as a matter of obedience, a little bit of dragging my
Yes.
feet, but then the Lord confirmed this, and I find myself meeting wonderful people like you around the globe. I get to interact with those like you do, like you guys do often, with those that are just serving faithfully with far less than what we have. So it's a tremendous privilege, to be a part of the pregnancy help community, to serve the pregnancy help community, and to do this work.
I love
Well,
that.
I want to ask you some questions about pregnancy help, and I want to get to those in just a second. Do you mind circling back to the abortion and talk a little bit about what you went through afterwards?
Yeah, like
Sure.
what life was like afterward. How did you find healing? That kind of thing.
Yeah. So it, it was one of those things where, because of my upbringing, I had kind of bought the whole worldview. This is no big deal. It's not problematic, and yet when I began to come kind of face to face with the truth of scripture, I began to understand two things. One is it was very problematic, and as I mentioned, um, abortion is a gospel issue. So just as I
Yes.
had connected with the gospel in a very personal way, I was also challenged by the gospel about my sin, which is true of any sin, right? That's the way it should be. In some ways, the what I encountered was sin like any other sin I needed to get rid of. That you're
Mhm.
supposed to work out of your life, right? You're not supposed to continue in those things. But as you guys well know, like an abortion is a particular marker. It's a particular issue
Yes.
for which guilt and shame and unforgiveness can persist. So my path from that moment was really to understand what I try to say often is that pregnancy is not a sin, but when we involve ourselves with abortion, that's something that we need to seek forgiveness for, and that God's grace is far above these types of sin. The scripture
Mhm.
does talk about a sin that leads to death, but that is not abortion. In the sense that God can redeem that, and I sit here as living proof after many years of His faithfulness of allowing me the privilege of being part of this ministry. I am an imperfect messenger, to be sure, but I am a witness to His perfect grace and His love as He has walked. He has brought me on a season of healing and then allowed me to do this work.
That's really good. I love that. And now Heartbeat is in 90 countries. Is that right? You're in
Yeah,
90?
90. I think it's 97 or 96. We
97.
lose count every now and then. We're trying to get to 100, but yeah, because
When we
this
grow
work is
up,
important everywhere. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I was gonna say when we grow up, we want to be Heartbeat because we like say we're in 27 countries, and now I'm like we need to be in 97 countries.
We visited Heartbeat a couple of years ago.
Yes, got a tour.
Saw all the flags that you
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
had displayed, and I love that. That was inspirational.
Yes,
Oh,
yes.
it's inspirational to us when we get to put a new one up. When we in fact, I just learned that we'll have a representative from Lithuania will be coming to our conference. Our conference is in April.
Yeah.
And I think it's the first time we've had one come to be a part of our conference from from the Baltic region, from that particular
It's
country.
awesome.
Cool.
That's so great. When we were there, I will tell you this, when we were there, I took a picture of all the flags of all the countries, and I posted all the pictures from Heartbeat, like, oh, we got to take a tour, and I posted those. A friend of mine in Cookeville, Tennessee, they've got this rockin' church over in Cookeville, Tennessee. They built this whole prayer center, like it has separate rooms, like all these different rooms, and in each room you pray for different things. And she saw that picture and modeled one of the rooms after that with all of the flags that they have missionaries in. And
Nice.
so, and then she said it came from that picture that you posted. And I was like, that's from Heartbeat International. So I'll have to send you that picture because it's beautiful. I
Well, if
absolutely
I
love
get to
it.
Cookville, I definitely will have to stop in and visit.
Yes, they would love it. They would probably show you all around. They would love it.
You are inspiring. And I love it.
Yes.
So, most of our listeners know, but Sheila and I steward an organization called Save One. And what we do is we help men, women, and families recover from the aftermath of abortion with resources and partnering with churches and pregnancy centers. And we do that to offer a compassionate response to this issue.
Mhm.
There's a lot of non-compassionate responses.
Yes.
And I don't mean that disparaging. There's a lot of different efforts that are happening, but this way is the way the Lord has called us. So at Heartbeat, you guys offer tons of services as well
And resources and
so tell us about Heartbeat and what you guys do on a regular basis.
Well, thank you. Our first call really was by the pregnancy help community of those early days. We were formed in 1971, so actually before Roe. We came
wow.
the earliest. Obviously, pregnancy help has been a reality since the time of the Christians in the Roman day, right? As they used to, what they call expose the babies, and then it was the Christians that came and rescued them. So we're modeled after that. But in the modern era of the pro-life movement, we came into existence in 71, kind of called together by the pregnancy help people of that time. I loved how you said it earlier. You talked about a covering. We're a covering in a sense, and it was we were called to be a uniting element, and so that primarily meant we were capturing information, we were creating networking and training, right? So that was at the time called we were called Alternatives to Abortion International, and that we would hold a conference, and that would be our training element. It was called Academy, AAI Academy. So
Okay.
today we call out all of our training academy, whether it's the conference in person or it's online or it's available in print. So we have that from our history, but that's how we were called into existence. And then the other two key things that we do a lot of other stuff, but the other two key things we have two direct service outreach. One of those is optionline.org. And if no one hears anything else about Heartbeat International, I would want you to know about optionline.org because that's a locator. You can go on that website and find a pregnancy help organization location near you. And so primarily US and Canada, but also can be connected with around the world. So we're there 24/7, 365, and we have a whole nother team that is also part of our abortion pill rescue network, which is another 24/7 team of nurses that are there to help women have that last chance to choose life. If they've taken that first pill of the chemical abortion, then there is still a chance, if we can get to her quickly enough, that she might have a chance to save that baby.
That's good. We started when the abortion pill rescue network came into existence, we added it into our training that we do. And so at our trainings, our in-person trainings, when we're training people how to do the Save One study, we have them pull out our phone and put the number in their phone right then, because we tell them,
Perfect.
like, if somebody is coming to you, you don't have time to try to figure out what do we do. You're going to have the number right there in your phone and can call them, and they can lead you through how to help this woman who has taken this drug that is so traumatic. I know you guys have probably experienced this, but it's like when Roe was overturned, the other side just found this new level of evil through chemical abortion. And with chemical abortion now making up more than half of all the abortions happening in our country, it's like we're seeing that they're coming to us much sooner, they're coming much younger, and they're coming much more, I don't want to say damaged, but traumatized. The trauma is 10 times greater, it seems, with a chemical abortion. And so, because of that, we wrote an ebook that helps our leaders and helps anybody who's doing abortion recovery to, this is how you need to deal with them before you just put them in a Bible study, because more than likely they're not ready to just walk into a Bible study. They need to decompress. They need to figure out what happened to me, because these people told me it was going to be this, and it was actually the opposite of what they told me. So anyway, I could go off on that, because it is just, when I hear people fighting for chemical abortion, when we see the trauma that walks through our door, it's mind blowing that they're fighting to keep this alive, when it is, it's damaging women and men and families, and it's horrible.
Yeah.
But
It
anyway,
most certainly is, and you called it right. She's still in trauma. She's still in trauma from the pregnancy, from the decision, from the often from the very act of the chemical abortion and what she may be encountering. You know,
yes,
we've talked to women that have held the baby in their, you know, that little tiny baby in their
yeah,
hands and been traumatized by that. You know, this is the scary new world that we're in, where you have these, what do they call them, DIY, or I think the more
hmm,
polite term is self-managed abortions. Well, yeah, you're turning their bedroom or their bathroom or their dorm room
yes,
into an abortion clinic, and of course these are traumatic scenarios. And I'm sad that our government, such as it has been, and until they get it straight, I mean, they're just making it easier for the abortion industry to prey on such women and put them in those
exactly.
traumatic situations. Grateful that you're helping train others of how to do that, and glad that we can, at least for those that contact us soon enough, we have a potential to help them if we can just
Hmm.
introduce abortion pill reversal, which is simply progesterone, right? It's we have T-shirts that say this just progesterone. You know, it's the
Yeah.
same thing that a woman produces in her body to sustain a pregnancy. And so
Hmm.
it's not the exotic thing cooked up in the lab. That's the abortion pill.
Right.
It's the very thing that God created to for women to have, that help preserve that baby. And so we're happy to be able to help. And I appreciate that you tell people, call us, because we do this all day, every day, and we can help
That's
and make
good.
it happen as fast as possible.
That's good. And my friend Cindy was telling us just the other night, we were in Columbus a few days ago and we had dinner with Cindy, but she was saying that there is on record, you have saved at least 6,000 babies, which means you've rescued 6,000 moms from having to live through the hell that I went through after my own abortion, and millions of other women. So, and those are just the ones that you can prove, right? But there's really thousands more.
Potentially, because there are other people doing it. Some of those are calculated. Some of those are still in process. You know, we haven't yet seen the baby appear. Or, you know, we're excited for that. But we love that number 6,000 that we have
Yes,
calculated have been saved. There are more happening, because we know that not all of them are going through us. Many doctors, once they learn about the process and are inclined to do it, they're willing to do that. But you said something that I want to key in on, and it kind of connects with the trauma question. I had an APR nurse who was part of that early team. I made the statement about, well, we can't help them all, because you know the calculations show, the studies show that it's about 64 to 68% effective within the first 72 hours.
mm,
And she said, she challenged me. She said, Jor-El, you need to be careful when you say that. I'm like, what did I say? And she said, yes, it may not be successful that the baby would survive in all situations. So I was really keying in on the 30% or so that for which it doesn't work. She said, but don't forget the gift that you've given that mom of helping her try. And
yes,
and I
that's
thought,
good.
okay, Marie, that's a really powerful point, that look, we at least help her have that moment where she did what she could do. Yes, she made a decision she probably didn't want. You know, you've seen the numbers, 63 to
Mhm,
70% feel coerced into that decision,
yes,
and she didn't want it. And then immediately she wanted to change her mind, and we at least helped her try. And to
Mm-hmm.
have her, to have that gift of being able to say to herself that she made what effort she could to try is it's as important as when we help them and they succeed.
Oh, that's really good. I love that.
So, what are the biggest changes or the biggest change that you see from our post Roe era that we're
Yeah, the biggest changes that we've already been talking about is chemical abortion. I think
Mm-hmm.
you said you quoted more than half. We see what Guttmacher says. They now say as of 2023, 63%. We frankly think it's closer to 75 to 80% because
Mm-hmm.
the abortion reporting laws are horrible in our
Yes.
country. In fact, they don't exist. There's no national reporting thing. There's large states, as you guys well know, California and others don't report any numbers. So we're really reliant upon the abortion industry to tell us. So we're convinced that it's actually much higher.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that as we talked about earlier, the FDA has changed some of their rules. They made it. They supposedly made it simpler, but what they've done is made it easier to access these things without good care for these moms. And so
Yes.
that's our grave concern, that the abortion industry is removing common sense protections for her. They're
Mm-hmm.
really doing things to serve the abortion movement and not women's health care or women's health. So this is our greatest issue. The abortion industry has shifted phenomenally, and we are running to catch up with it.
Yeah, that's good because I mean, as far as I know, no one is policing yet the fact that in a state that where abortion is completely banned, like our state in Tennessee, you can order abortion pills and they come straight to your home. Still, you know.
Exactly. Yeah. There's no state, despite good laws and good states like
Hmm.
Tennessee, good life states, I would say that they're still able to provide it. Of course, it can always be secured through abortion tourism. To be able to travel to these other states, and in some ways, I think of the states as life states and as abortion states. And
Hmm.
I do that intentionally
Yes.
because we have a history in our country of something similar. Back in those days, we called them free states and slave states. And it
Wow.
seems there's so many parallels between
Yes.
the country that we live in now and the country that they lived in then. And of course, I hope that we don't have to resolve this through a bloody civil war as back
Hmm.
then, which costs what, 750,000 people.
Yeah.
But we have a huge divide in our nation, and we're going to have to figure this out. And I'm trusting that we will figure it out according to God's righteousness and God's
Yes.
plan for life.
Yes. I love that. Love it, love it. And I wish we could just continue talking to you. This has been so interesting and the wisdom is phenomenal. Thank you for the years, the decades that you have spent in this horrific subject. We all would love to be talking about something different.
That's yes,
But
we would like baseball. Let's do that again.
right. Let's talk about baseball. How can I, make a career out of that? But I just am so appreciative of you because I feel like everything that we do stands on the shoulders of giants like you in the movement. So thank you for doing that. But you guys know every episode we give a love life tip of the day. And Jor-El's is this: speak life everywhere possible, especially into difficult situations like unintended pregnancies. And I feel like that made me think about the verse Proverbs 18:21 that says the power of life and death are in our tongue. And so we can speak life into situations or we can speak death into situations. And I feel like when, as churches, as pregnancy centers, as children of God, when we pick up this language of life, we start bringing value back to life through the words that we speak. And that's an excellent tip to help all of us love life on a greater level, is to watch the words that we speak because they're powerful. You know, that's good. So thank you for tuning in this month. If you're enjoying this podcast, please like, share, comment, and review it. Your feedback means the world to us. Thank you so much, Jor-El, for being a part of today's show. Jack and
Thank
I
you for
have
the
been
privilege.
well, we have been completely blessed by your journey, watching you all of these years, and I'm sure we all have many more years to work together. So thank you for taking your time. We know you're a busy man, so we just appreciate it. And be watching for our next episode, helping you love life on a greater level.
Thank you for being a part of our audience today on the Love Life podcast. Please share it with your friends and check back often for the next podcast, or subscribe so you don't miss a single episode.